Thank you so much for tuning into No Soundbites Allowed today. I'm the political dragon, Michael Voss, and I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Remember, on this podcast, we don't settle for sound bites. We dive deeper, challenge assumptions, and have the conversations that matter. If you liked today's show, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us your comments. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring you the hard-hitting discussions you won't hear anywhere else. Follow me on the major social media platforms like X, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and more to stay updated on upcoming episodes and join the conversation live on our next live stream. We love hearing from you and we value every perspective. We stream live, responding to your chats and calls starting at 2:30 p.m. every Sunday. Until next time, this is Michael Voss, and you've been listening to No Soundbites Allowed. Stay informed, stay engaged, and as always, don't settle for the sound bites.
should be fine. Is anyone else having a problem with the audio? Anyone else? You can leave me a comment on Rumble or on YouTube, either way. If anyone else is having a problem, let me see. I'm just checking in case I missed something here. Nope. According to my system, Lynn, it may be your system. I'm seeing audio. Happy Life. How are you, Happy Life? I hope everything's going great in Thailand. I was just talking about Southeast Asia. And Happy Life says he can hear me. Okay, so, and he's on YouTube. Okay. So it may be your system, Lynn, just so you know. Okay. Thank you, Happy Life, for giving me that update. All right. So, again, so the news media is trying to use guilt. They're trying to guilt you into changing your political ideology. They're trying to make you feel like you're the bad guy for following the law and for problems that aren't American problems. I just wanted to point that out for you. Also, in breaking news, we just have heard, it came out about 2 hours ago, is that Kathy Hochul has decided that she will not be removing Mayor Eric Adams, which is a bit of a surprise for all of us, I think. But it's now, because it was looking like she was trying to find a way to get rid of him. And I think when she decided to speak with Al Sharpton, which I don't even understand why she would talk to Al Sharpton. He represents nobody. He's never been elected to a position in his life. He has nothing to do with, he's self-appointed. He's been anointed, but that's about it. Yeah, I understand that. He's been anointed. Al Sharpton's been anointed, but no one ever elected him. He decided for himself that he was suddenly going to be some kind of political leader just because. Just because the news media said, well, he's black, so Al Sharpton is important. So Kathy Hochul can't just fire Eric Adams, a black mayor, during February, Black History Month, without talking to a black leader, so to speak. Again, how is Al Sharpton a leader? He's never been elected to anything. What makes Al Sharpton a leader? Because he gets interviews on CNN and MSNBC, because the news media constantly cover him. That doesn't make him a news media. That makes him a celebrity. I give you that. Al Sharpton is a celebrity. He is a celebrity based on his racial baiting. And that's his big thing, is he's a race hustler, and he's very popular at being a race hustler. But regardless of that, so Kathy Hochul has been talking with Al Sharpton and a couple of other New York leaders, trying to figure out what she should do about Eric Adams. And she now, after a week of seeming like she was trying to fire Eric Adams, to remove Eric Adams, thus causing a special election, something that in my conversations with people all across New York State, New York City, nobody cared. Nobody cares if there was a special election. Nobody cares if Eric Adams is running or not. Nobody cares if Andrew Cuomo is running or not. At this moment, nobody cares about New York mayor and who it happens to be. New York is screwed. It's not doing well. Everyone accepts that. And it doesn't matter if it's Eric Adams or anyone else. Under the Democrat single rule of New York State, New York is screwed. The city is a mess. We know that. And no individual is going to fix that, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, whether they're black or white, it doesn't matter. So no one's really looking forward to that. So there could be a special election, but Democrats wouldn't do especially well in that. And Republicans are more than ready to move forward on a special election. They actually might do better. And we know that Libertarians are interested, and they have candidates who also would be looking forward to a special election. It would give them the opportunity to build up their name and have a better election going forward. And I think that is the reality behind what we're now seeing from Governor Hochul. What's now being reported by ABC News is that Governor Hochul realized that the more attention she puts on the mayor's race, the more that she gives an opportunity for people to be involved in the election process, the less likely it is for a Democrat to win. Now, Democrats may disagree with me on that. Other people may disagree with me on that. But I believe that's the answer she got from Al Sharpton. I think that's the answer she's been getting from a bunch of New York politicians in New York City. And obviously, they haven't been talking to the American people. But if they had been talking to the American people, I think that's the answer that they would get, is that no one cares. No one thinks that this is anything except partisan party politics, that going after Eric Adams is a form of, it's just a reflection of the corruption that we see in New York State overall, and Democrats overall, that they're just angry because Eric Adams stepped off the plantation. He did something that wasn't approved by the Democratic Party, and because he did that, he needs to be punished. And so they're just trying to figure out the punishment. So I think that's part of why they did this. And so instead of removing Eric Adams, as was initially expected, because that would be good for Republicans, that would be good for third parties, because Democrats could lose that, they're going to go the same way that we see that South Fulton City in Georgia has gone. Now, most people probably have never heard of, most people in America probably haven't heard of South Fulton City. It is the 7th largest city in the state of Georgia. And it is a very heavily, it's a very black city. The population is very heavily black. I believe it's about 80% black population in the city. And of course, Democrat. Very, very heavily Democrat city. And in South Fulton City, they hired a BLM mayor. Straight on, a BLM advocate. He goes by the title of Mayor Kobe, is what he likes to go with. I don't know why. Makes no sense. It's not his name. Has nothing to do with his name, but I guess it's because it's popular. I don't know. But this so-called Mayor Kobe is and has been a activist for BLM. And very much like Patrice Cullors, and this is him, by the way, right here, trying to explain himself. But like Patrice Cullors before him, he has used the election, being mayor, to travel overseas, to be able to go to Africa and actually several countries. He went to Paris and all across Africa on the taxpayer dime, 20 days without prior notice. Just picked up, decided to take off and go on a worldwide trip. And just forgot about his people. And spent thousands of dollars on the city's credit card. It's a lot of abuse. And so the city, the South Fulton City Council, also an entire board, all black people, so it's not racial, although he has claimed it is racial. I don't know how, considering everybody involved is black. Have said, okay, they're going to just strip him of his power. They didn't remove him, and he's still getting a paycheck. They just took away his right to do anything. All of his power as mayor has been stripped from him. So he has the title of mayor. He gets a paycheck for being the mayor. He has nothing else. He has no right to do anything. He barely has the right to be in City Hall. That's what they've done, because he is broke. He has abused the system, much like Patrice Cullors, like everyone. Everyone who has been connected to BLM has abused the public each and every time. Patrice Cullors decided to go out and buy 6 mansions with your money. Sean King was buying $40,000 dogs as his pets with your money. This guy is going around, traveling around the world with your money. These are BLM activists. Is anyone improving the quality of life of any of the citizens? No. Does this help anyone? No. So, very much having seen this happen, Kathy Hochul is now taking the same process, and she's doing the same thing. Oh, well, I can't fire him because he's black and it's Black History Month and she's a white woman. And New York is very, very much, it's sensitive about those kind of things. There's a lot of leftists in New York City. So she's got to preserve the ability of Democrats to win. So she can't fire him. She's going to take away all of his rights. She'll still pay him a check and he'll still have the title, but he won't be able to do anything. She's going to put all of her people in instead of any of Eric Adams' people. And this way she will de facto have taken over, which is authoritarian because she wasn't elected for that. That isn't who the people of New York City voted for. That is usurping power. That is a problem. And people should be very upset about that. But let me see what everyone's saying here. Let me check out the comments. By the way, did you guys see I was showing this. I thought I had this, again, I apologize, have a little bit of cold. So here's the article itself, Fulton City revokes. I'm not sure if you didn't see this. And so this is the article itself about Mayor Kobe and some of the things that he's done. That's his pool table that he bought with taxpayer dollars so that he could have that, and some of his statements about traveling the world and how, traveling to Paris was actually good for South Fulton City. I don't know how, but he thought it was. And this is the article I was talking about. So let me go over to some of the comments here. Happy Life mentions that he's in the Philippines and he's going back to Thailand in March. Well, the Philippines is nice. It's a more stable country, by the way, Happy Life. Happy to see that you're enjoying Southeast Asia. The Philippines is a more stable nation. And I hope that you enjoy. I know Thailand's been having a lot of problems with their finances, and they've been attacking foreigners. We covered that last week about anyone who has a bank account overseas. Please make sure that your name and in particular, your phone, the name on your phone bill and the name in your bank account match up, because a lot of countries are using your phone as a way to verify your identity. Don't ask me why they do it that way. They are. And if they don't match up, they are, in some countries, like Thailand, are freezing people's bank accounts until they investigate that, which God knows how long that can take. We went into that in last week's episode. We were talking about that. Happy Life says he hopes that America is improving. It is. It is. Things are getting much better. And Al Sharpton is a joke, yes. Do you think Eric Adams will win in the summer election? No. Now, I know there are people there are several people I've spoken to who do believe Eric Adams will win no matter what. Because New York is 3-1, 6-1 Democrat, New York City. And because there is such an overweighting of Democrats, he's just going to win. And so it doesn't matter who runs against him. I don't agree with that. That's the mathematical argument. Mathematically, if he runs, he's already in office. He's the incumbent. He's a name that everyone knows. If he runs, he wins. Pretty much the only person who could possibly unseat him is Andrew Cuomo, who has a name that is also very well known, very well connected, already has a bunch of money, so he could run at the same, right against Eric Adams and be able to fund a campaign. He's a Democrat, so you could see Andrew Cuomo run very effectively against Eric Adams for mayor. But I don't believe that Andrew Cuomo, one, would win because he killed 16,000 people. He's responsible for the death of 16,000 people and the cover-up of those 16,000 deaths and 11 sexual assaults, according to Letitia James, AG for New York State. So I don't think he wins. I don't think Andrew Cuomo should ever be reelected to any office because of his history. And so that's one problem he has. And I don't think that Andrew Cuomo wants to be mayor of New York. I think he wants to be governor. He wants the attention. He wants the people. He wants to start building up a base of voters so that he could run for governor again, so that, or maybe even senator. He may want to run for Senate. And to build up that base of voters, that those Democrats that feel confident in being with Chuck Schumer again. Excuse me, not Chuck Schumer, Andrew Cuomo. To get them riled up again, to say, yeah, he could do it. He's the guy. I think that's what his goal is. Draw interest, get his base, his foundation of support, get that back in place after it has been destroyed because of his own actions, his own failures in office, his own corruption. He wants to rebuild his corrupt foundations and then move forward. So I don't think he wants to be mayor. So yeah, it's very strongly, yes, I do think Eric Adams would win. Not impossible for someone else to win, but he has a very, very good chance. Mike Bowie. Mike, you're with us. I haven't seen you in a while, Mike. Mike says, I think upstate should seriously secede from New York City. That is a very common thought, Mike. A lot of people have been thinking that, especially when we see these things that are happening in New York State, where you have a governor who doesn't pay attention to upstate New York, we've seen Kathy Hochul and we've seen Andrew Cuomo both say back to back that they hate half of America, that they don't want conservatives in New York State, that they don't need conservatives or anyone who's religious or anyone who believes in the Second Amendment. They have both said those people, which are Americans and represent about half of America, they don't want them in the state. And they have actively been pushing them out. Kathy Hochul said, get on a bus and go to Florida. Andrew Cuomo said, just get out the state. This isn't your state. Because he wants to make New York State, he wanted to make New York State the progressive capital of the United States. They've been very clear where they want New York State to go. And as they have pushed towards that utopia of socialism, of far left ideology, we have gone further and further in debt. Infrastructure has failed. And they're getting what they wanted. Conservatives are leaving, taking their money with them. They take their businesses, they're taking their money, they're selling their houses, they are walking away from New York State in the hundreds of thousands of people per month. And that's been true for New York State for about a decade, almost 15 years. We have seen New York State has been the number one state that everyone has left. California is number 2. New York State is number 1. Hundreds of thousands of people every month. And I'm not counting the inflow of illegal aliens that offsets that number. They love to count the illegal aliens so they can say, no, it's not that bad. People aren't leaving. Yes, they are. Citizens are leaving. Citizens are packing up, taking everything they've got, and they're getting the hell out. But here's the problem. Here's the problem, Mike Bowie. If you were to separate New York City from upstate New York would be one of the poorest states in the country. In part because we don't have an infrastructure that is adequate. It's got a lot of problems. We have to rebuild that. The income, the number of, we lose a lot of seats. I mean, we've got 8 million. So New York City is about 8 million people. So you're looking at a state total population of 20 million. It drops it down to about 12 million for upstate, and New York City would be its own with 8 million. That would severely drop the number of votes New York State would have, which means it drops its importance in Congress, its ability to negotiate and to get better bills, more pork barrel spending. Less of it will be happening in New York State than compared to many other states. And so that would put it on the back burner, which means it will have less development and less infrastructure being built up. That would be a problem. We'd be basically agricultural, more agricultural based. That isn't the biggest money maker, and that would be a problem. We lose a hell of a lot of money from New York City because that is a financial, New York City is more financial. Wall Street, a lot of businesses, CEOs, a lot of businesses are based in New York State, in New York City in particular. And so you're losing all of those benefits that draw that tourism. You're losing all of that. And you still have a lot of the debt in splitting New York City from upstate New York. Upstate New York still carries over some of the debt, which we wouldn't be able to pay off. We instantly would become, well, we wouldn't be Mississippi, but we would probably be in the bottom 30, the bottom 20 states in the country if you had upstate New York separated from New York City. I hope that answers that a little bit. It's a matter of perspective. It's actually better for upstate New York to keep New York City. It's a pain, but in terms of federal funding, in terms of power in Congress, in the ability to get things done to help people to potentially grow in the future, it's actually better for upstate New York to be part of New York State with New York City than it is to separate. I don't like that, but politically, the answer is no, you want to keep them together. Who knew? By the way, yet another example of how screwed up New York State and New York City is. And you keep hearing, Kathy Hochul has been saying for, months now, New York State is safe. New York City's safe. You are safe. And yet, we're not safe. We know that there are illegal alien gangs are roaming across the city. Many of them are Venezuelan gangs, MS-13. There's a lot of gangs. And they're all throughout the city. We know that. We know they're attacking police as well as individuals. That's a fact. We know that there are drugs being brought in. They're importing drugs that are killing people. We know that for a fact. But it's not just that. We were told that not only did they brought in 1,000 National Guard to make the city safer, and it didn't. And we know that they've said but the city's safe anyway because illegal aliens aren't a problem and crime isn't the big issue that everyone says it is. Then we have moments like this. This is a failure of Eric Adams. This is a failure of Kathy Hochul. Today, as of 1 p.m., hour and a half ago, there was a suspect for a shooting. He allegedly shot a 25-year-old man. Okay? Police were after a guy. He allegedly shot a 25-year-old man in the Bronx. The police went after him. They went into Edamore, the projects. By the way, they call it Edamore housing. Oh, they went to Edamore houses. It's the projects. I know that because Edamore is actually very close to where I live. I was here before Edamore existed. And so my family, we know about Edamore projects. It's always been there. My family has been in this neighborhood for 50 years. Very familiar with Edamore. It's projects. That's what it is. That's what everyone calls it. No one calls it Edamore housing. It's not public housing. It's the projects. And so this guy shoots someone in the project. It goes into the projects, and the police are right behind him. And they try and trap him. He's in an empty apartment. One of the empty apartments in the projects. And this guy escapes. I don't understand how they could do that. I wish I could show you guys. Hang on. Maybe I can. Maybe I can. Eden Moore. Eden Moore projects in the Bronx. Let's see. No, images. Here we go. Okay, so these are the images of the Eden Moore. These are projects in New York State. Okay? These are projects that you will see in New York State. When you're looking at all these different projects, if you're in here, if you're in one of these projects, how does anyone escape the police? How can the police lose you? They know which apartment you went to. If you're on the third floor or on the first floor, they know where you are. They've got it surrounded. So you can't go, they're in the hallway. So you're not walking into the hallway and somehow you're going to pass them by. That's not going to happen. This isn't The Professional with, what's his name? The movie, The Professional with, what's his name? What was his name? John something or other. Not Jean-Claude Van Damme, but the other French guy. Oh, he did such a great job. Anyway, you're not getting past people in the hallway. And if you climb out, I would imagine that there's officers standing outside because they surrounded this place. They, according to the news media, they had surrounded him. This was a standoff. They knew that he was in the apartment building. They had officers there surrounding the building. So that means somebody was outside looking at the windows in case he decided to tie a couple of bed sheets together and climb out the window. Somebody was there watching the window, you would think. So this guy somehow disappears. I'm sorry, this isn't The Raid. You're not just disappearing on people. This isn't the movie, The Professional. You're not just having somebody, chop out, what did he do in The Professional? He just blew a hole in the ceiling and blew away. It's not happening. Jean Reno. Thank you. Jean Reno. Thank you, Mike Bully. Yes, Jean Reno. It's just not likely. And I don't understand this, folks. This is the utter incompetence that has come from both Mayor Adams and from Governor Kathy Hochul. The fact that they are so dependent on just pushing the blame down the road, on not having a proper plan, on not holding people accountable. Someone should be fired for this. I don't understand this. And these are the big problems. It may not seem like a big problem. It's only one criminal that escaped. It's only one guy. Why are you upset about this, Mike? And it's not because he's even in my neighborhood, because there are crackheads all over the place, and this is not the first time that criminals have gotten loose and they've shot up people before. Like I said, my family's been here for 50 years. I remember the 80s and the crack crisis, the crackheads all over the place. That's not new to me. No. It's that this is indicative of the lack of respect or concern for the people. It is the failure of the system to have anticipated the most simple thing. The most simple thing that they could possibly do. For this guy to escape from the projects with the police surrounding the building and he escaped them, it makes no sense. It makes zero sense. You've got police in the hallway. You've got police outside looking at the windows. Where is this guy going? How is he getting out of the building without anyone noticing him? That is utter, absolute incompetence. And someone should be fired and replaced. but they're not. This story is going to be buried. No one's going to talk about it. No one's going to care. This isn't a story that's being covered by the big news media. This is coming from StatenIslandLive.com. Okay, so it is local news media, but you're not seeing this on WABC, CNN, CBS, NBC. They're not, the big news stations aren't covering this. You're not seeing this on the New York Times. They don't want to talk about this because they want you to think, oh, no, the Bronx is fine. Everything's fine. There is no crime. What are you talking about, crime? Nah. They don't want you to think about it. Because if you think about it, you go, this is absolutely inept. This is a bad leadership. And if we allow this to happen, what else do they screw up? If the police officers, they're just human too. They're human beings. And they have a hard enough job as it is. They get shot at, they get fought with. People don't like them in the community because of the BLM activists. So they have enough problems on their own every day. And if they don't have to work harder to do their job, if a bad guy just gets away and no one's complaining, I'll let the bad guy, you know what? If I didn't have to work hard to be shot at, knowing that if I go hardcore after this one guy, he's probably going to shoot me or my friend. Somebody's going to the hospital, maybe to the morgue. Nobody wants that. No one wants to work for that. That is hard. That is difficult. And police already have it hard enough. Whether you love police or not, you know what? When someone robs your house, you're not calling the local crackheads. When someone is stealing from you or hurts you, you don't go to your local BLM official. That ain't what happens. You're not going to the local gang. You go to the police. So as much as some people will say, oh, I don't like the police, what other option do you have? They're the best thing you've got, and they do their job relatively well. Could it be better? Maybe. But you know what? It's not bad. They're doing a good job. That being said, if they don't have to work hard, if no one's keeping them up to hold them accountable, if no one's paying attention to the details, and stupid things like this get to happen, well, that means that they're not going to work hard. Why do I have to work so hard? If no one's going to hold me accountable, if I can get away with not endangering my life to get a bad guy who probably shot someone, again, he allegedly shot someone, which means he's probably going to shoot the police officers as they try to arrest him. This is somebody who's willing to fight back and use deadly force. And if they aren't required, if no one's pushing them saying, get that guy now. If they don't have to, they're not going to. They're human beings. Nobody wants to walk into the line of fire and get shot at. Nobody wants that. So if they're not being held accountable for that, they probably won't. I can't blame them for that so much. And no one cares. And the city falls apart. That's the problem. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe other people disagree. Maybe other people think, Mike, you just don't get it. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. I could be completely wrong here. And I look forward to hearing what everyone else has to say about this. By the way, Mike Bowie had asked a question. Why does New York City keep voting Democrat? Why does New York State keep voting Democrat? Because there's a lot of ads out there that tell people, no, Democrats are fantastic. Because people are told, do it. Vote Democrat. Because Democrats are the good guys, according to the media. Because there's a lot of advertising telling you that it is in your best interest to vote for Democrats. Now, your real life experience will tell you no, because they failed consistently, over and over again. But there's a lot of people who vote based on the ad. Whatever the latest ad says, that's what they'll vote. Whatever their friends say, that's what they'll do. Because they don't want to say, oh, well, I'm a Republican. Ooh, you're just a bad guy. I mean, especially when you have communities, mixed communities. You know how hard it is, or how hard it was for me for most of my life to be a Republican and live in the Bronx and let people know, yeah, I'm a Republican. I've always been a Republican. Oh, but Mike, you're black. What's that got to do with it? But Mike, you can't be. Why not? Where is the law that says I can't be a libertarian or Green Party or conservative or Republican? Where's the law that says black people can only be? When they put in the 13th Amendment, was there a subsection in there that said, and by the way, all the black people will be Democrats from now on? Did that happen? After Martin Luther King died, then we had the civil rights movement. Did they suddenly go, and everyone's going to be a Democrat from now on? All black people are Democrats from now on. No choice. That's it. No, that didn't happen. It's like saying, well, Al Sharpton's your leader. No, he's not. I didn't vote for him. When did he become my leader? When did we have that choice? There was no poll for that. There was no vote for that. No, I'm sorry, he's not. You just say he is, and we're expected to just accept it. They say that Democrats are for the poor people, but that's not the reality. They say that if you're black, you have to vote Democrat, but there's nothing that obligates you to do that. It's just that they never let you hear anyone else say anything different. They never let you hear anyone say, well, Al Sharpton actually was never elected for anything. He's not a leader. He's not an elected leader. He doesn't represent anything. Maybe his congregation, that's about it. He doesn't represent people. And, when you're talking about blacks, there's nothing that obligates black people to be Democrat. Nothing. So why is it such a bad thing for black people to not be Republican? In the 1950s, 1960s, black people were Republicans. Martin Luther King was a Republican. Oh, you just don't understand. Yes, I do. Going by Republicans back then, going by Democrats today, looking at the standards, yeah, he was a Republican. Okay. Oh, but you just don't understand. Southern Democrats? Yeah, we understand. We understand pretty damn well, yes. But they don't like it. It's not popular. It's not part of the revisionist story. And so we have to lie to each other about these things. And it's very upsetting. It's very upsetting when they lie to us about these issues. At least I feel that it is upsetting. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe other people disagree with me. I'm not feeling well today, so I could be missing something. All right, let's talk about what's happening overseas. I know I'm moving along a little bit faster today than usual. I'm going to try to anyway, because I do feel my voice is crap. I know it. I know it is, and I don't feel well. But I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to be coherent and to be clear in my voice and to try and cover these things that you may not have heard before. So I appreciate each and every one of you that are paying attention. By the way, please like, share, subscribe. Because me just talking about Eric Adams and saying that he could lose, by talking about Al Sharpton and saying that he's not a leader of black people, that's enough to be suppressed according to YouTube, and that's going to suppress my channel. And they don't want you to hear that. They don't want any black people to hear anything like that. How dare you? No. Al Sharpton is Black America. No, he's not. No, he's not. Never was. Never was. I'm 57 years old. I will be 57 years old in April. I can tell you for a fact that Al Sharpton has never been a leader of Black America. Never. Been around. I remember the 80s. I remember the 90s. I kind of remember the 70s. Al Sharpton was never the leader of Black America. Never. No one ever voted for him. There was no consensus behind him. The only people who've ever said that are the mainstream news media. That should make people pause and think about that. The only people who have ever referred to him that way always are the mainstream news media. Anyway, let me go on. So, what's going on in the news media today? Germany is right now going into their elections. This is important for the world because we're seeing conversations that are going on right now between the United Kingdom, England, and Germany and the European Union about the Ukraine war, about whether the Ukraine war will end, whether or not Russia will be allowed to make a deal with the United States, about whether or not illegal immigration will be allowed to continue in Europe, in Germany, the whole Eastern European region. It's going to help shape politics, economics for the next decade. So this is very important, this election. And we have seen that Europe overwhelmingly has been moving more and more towards the center right, a slight bias towards the conservative. It's kind of like where America has traditionally always been. America is a center right country, always has been. Always has been. There are some left issues where Americans are a little bit more left-leaning social issues that people will bend here and there about, kind of like with abortion, like under certain restrictions when it's rare and infrequent. Yeah, we could see that. And that's where you get those left-leaning exceptions. But overwhelmingly, America has always been center-right. Europe has always been left. Big difference. Europe has always been left, not center left. They have been left. And now they're becoming center right. And we've seen that in Italy, Norway, Sweden, Poland. There's a ton of countries that are moving towards the center right. Germany is one of those nations. In France, they lost their minds. Macron lost their minds, and they did anything and everything they could to try and defeat what the people wanted, which is to be center right. And they put in place, and they made every deal possible with the socialists, with the far left, to make sure that they could screw over what the public wanted in France. And that, of course, has resulted in a very fractured, inefficient, ineffective government in France. Germany has looked at this. Germany has seen what's going on with their neighbors all around them. They're looking at what's happening in the European Union, the trend around the world, and their own people. And in most recent elections, people are voting center right over and over again. Now, Germany is told that they have to feel guilty for the next forever because of the war that they lost. The war where they committed some atrocities. Not the only nation to have fought in a war, not the only nation to have committed atrocities. They did, in fact, commit some of the bigger atrocities in the world, but then again, so did Russia, so did China. Nobody talks about the Chinese atrocities after World War II. The 120 million Chinese people that were killed under Mao. No one wants to talk about that. You don't hear that at Columbia University. You don't hear about that in Harvard because they like socialism. And you don't hear about the Soviet era, Stalin and his atrocities, killing somewhere around 80, maybe 100 million Russians. You don't hear about those stories. No, they like him. But you will hear about Germans, and of course, I'm not saying that it's unfair that we should remember these things. We should. But Germany is unfairly beat up. And they beat up on themselves about this. So they're afraid of anyone who is a center-right organization, which is kind of funny because the organization they're afraid of was leftist. The National Socialists are a left inherently. Their very name tells you National Socialists are left leaning. They're not right leaning. They are firmly, solidly in the left, which is where Europe has firmly, solidly always been, on the left. And that's why the National Socialists were able to take over and do so well in so many countries around Europe, having a foothold in France, in Italy, in Germany. Many of the nations of Europe were very much into National Socialism of some form or some type. That's just a fact. That's why they took over, because Europe is naturally very left leaning. So, why Germany is so upset with the right, I don't, it doesn't quite make sense. I understand the fear, but the thing that they're afraid of is actually something that's on the left, not on the right. But okay, fine. Now, the expectation from this election is that the main conservative movement, which is more a moderate movement in Germany, is probably going to win with about 213 seats. It is expected that the AfD, which is considered the far right movement in Germany, would get 146 seats. This means that Germany would be moving center right. That would mean that Germany would be following up with Italy and Poland and Sweden and Norway, that they would all be moving center right. And that would take, and the EU has already moved center right. That's what's expected. And I believe that in the most recent polls, the German election live, this is according to The Guardian just before, is that here it goes. I want to give the most accurate answer here. So, the most recent news on this is that the CDU is about 29% of the vote. Now, that is in line with what was expected. What is more important, though, is that the AfD did better, double what they had done in the past. And so they were here. They actually wound up being closer to about here. They've actually done better. The main central conservative movement, the moderates in Germany, are right in line with what most people expected. It's the far right of Germany, or what's called the far right of Germany, have done way better. Now, why is that important? Because that means we could see more restrictions on illegal aliens in Europe. We could see more pressure on Russia if it does not comply with the United States. We could see that Germany, like many countries, will finally put up and pay its fair share in terms of NATO. We could see that money that has been wasted on dumb ideas like climate change will actually be redirected to help the people of their countries, and more importantly, to be able to build the infrastructure in these nations, like building more nuclear power plants, which are more effective and far cleaner than any renewable energy, solar panels or wind. We could see that happen. And that means the United States would have a better relationship with Germany than what we have right now, which means we could have a better relationship with Europe going forward than we do right now. I think this could be very important. We will see, but I believe that if it is correct, if we are seeing the conservatives win in Germany, in the numbers that we are hearing, we will see a shift throughout all of Europe. All of Europe will be going towards the center right to try and meet up with America under the Trump administration, that they will be more of our allies and help create a stronger, more stable world than if we were the other way, because they are moving more center right, because they will be more accountable to their people, because they will have better defined borders and they will be protecting their people. We will see more global stability than what we have been having without it. No one ever says that. By having a more conservative government that is more focused on its people and protecting its people and cutting down on the illegal immigration by closing those open borders, you will have more global stability. And if Europe is doing that at the same time that the United States is doing that, you will see less terrorism traveling from country to country. It will reduce the amount of known and suspected terrorists entering into various countries around the world. That is a benefit for everyone. Nobody likes to talk about that. Excuse me. None of the mainstream news media want to talk about that direct consequence of doing this. That if they actually close their borders, there will be less terrorism in the world. That will be better for all the people in the world. There will be more peace in the world. All right. Let me move on. I hope this is all making sense, folks. I know I'm just wrecked today. I'm trying to get it through. Nope, the fever's gone, but I still feel like crap. Okay, so here's the thing that get me. You probably heard about the news today that Zelensky has said that he is now ready to step down for peace or for NATO membership. He has flip-flopped his position because he has no position. Zelensky, last week we were talking about this. I think I was talking about it on the Wednesday roundtable as well with the Liberty First Foundation. The fact is, Zelensky has no leg to stand on. Without the United States providing our support, both in terms of finance for their people and for their military, they can't win. They can't fight the war. There's no way that the Ukraine can win. We've been saying this since the beginning of the war in the first place. Ukraine was never going to win. That was never going to happen. And I know there's people out there who are very upset about hearing that. And it's not because we want Putin to win. We don't. And it's not because we think Russia's a good guy. They're not. I want the Russian government to fail. I want Putin to fail. I would love that. But Ukraine is not the one to take down Russia and Putin. It's just not. In terms of the military capabilities, they don't have it. And Russia could and has had the capability to sweep through Ukraine pretty much anytime they've wanted to throughout this entire war. What Russia has been doing is taking the opportunity to train more of their troops, to have more seasoned, more qualified military, actually bloodied soldiers and officers who know what they are doing. In fact, that's why the North Koreans were sending in their troops into the conflict in the Ukraine so that they could be trained, so that they could have wartime, some actual leadership in their military that actually have real combat experience. So this is what we're seeing, and this is what's been happening around the world. People, that's why we've seen Putin relatively take his time with this. He's been getting rid of old equipment, testing out new ideas, dealing with things like drones and how drones are impacting and changing the way warfare takes place, and seasoning the troops. And then bringing in troops from over in North Korea, training them, getting drones from Iran and checking out how they work and seeing if they help, getting support in from China, seeing how that helps. They're taking their time. They have always been. Ukraine was always going to lose. Always. The question is, how badly would they lose? And I commend the Ukrainian people for having fought as well as they have for as long as they have. I have no problem with the Ukrainian people. I think they're fantastic people. I've known many Ukrainian people when I was living out in the Soviet Union, when I was living out there, and here in the United States. I think Ukrainian people are great people. But their government is crap. Their government is corrupt. Always was. Prior to this war, if you asked anyone around the world, they'd all tell you, yeah, the Ukraine government is corrupt. Hyper corrupt. They have a lot of problems. So they're not saints. Just because Russia's the bad guy and Russia's attacking them doesn't instantly make the Ukraine a bunch of saints. They're not. Now, I say all of that to remind us. So what is the reality here? Ukraine was never going to win. They were only there to fight in terms from the United States point of view, from our funding, which we put in tons of funding. We've put in about $300 million of funding into the Ukraine. That's if you are including not just the weapons, the ammunition, and the humanitarian aid. Yes, we've put in about over $300 million. $300 billion, $300 billion. We have. In the first year alone, we put in $175 billion in the first year of the war. And then we just kept adding to it from then on. So the Ukraine knows they could never win. Now, mind you, they're always going to fight. It's their home. I expect that. And I do not deny them the right to be able to fight for their home, of course. But they're going to lose, and they have lost. And it's just a matter of time of how many people will die as they get ground down eventually. Assuming nothing else changes and it's just Ukraine fighting against Russia, Russia will grind them to dirt. It will happen over time. Guaranteed. There's no way around that. And Ukraine can't do anything about that. And the United States can't give them enough weapons and enough ammunition and train enough of their people in enough time to be able to turn that around. It's not going to happen. The numbers don't exist. So Ukraine has been trying to keep up their morale. They can't admit this. Zelensky, the leadership of the Ukrainian government, can never admit that. They can never agree with that because then their troops would be demoralized. And their troops would say, why am I fighting? Why don't we just give up? Why am I bothering? I mean, it's demoralizing to realize you can't win, that you're fighting for the best negotiating tactic. That's honestly what's been happening. They've been trying to get into a position so they can negotiate better so that Russia doesn't have all the cards, so that they can get more support to get more of what they've lost back. That's what Ukraine has been fighting for. And you can't tell people that. You can't tell people who are in a ditch fighting day in and out that you're not fighting to win, you're fighting to negotiate better. That's not going to get you very far. Hell, that could get you shot. So, Zelensky has to say, and has said, that he doesn't agree with Donald Trump having direct negotiations with Putin and Russia to end the war. No one needs to talk with Zelensky. We already know where Zelensky is. Zelensky isn't in charge of this war. He's fighting, absolutely. But the money is the United States. The weapons are from the United States. The ammunition is from the United States. The training of the troops coming almost entirely from the United States. Almost all of it is from the United States. We're talking about 80% of everything is from the United States. Paying for the retirement and the livelihood of the Ukrainian people is coming from the United States. These are facts. Why do we need the Ukraine? We know what the Ukraine wants. Oh, we want to go back to 2014. We want the borders like they were in the past, as if no one had ever taken any of our stuff. Of course, that's what you want. You're never going to get it. Not going to happen. That's a pipe dream. It sounds good to the soldiers who are fighting in that ditch. Fantastic. But anyone in politics, anyone anywhere else in the world knows you're not getting that. That's not going to happen. It's great to say that. Be the big, strong hero for your people fighting in the ditches, absolutely let them hear you say, we're going to get it back to the 2014 borders as if not, we're going to kick them out of our country. Yes, that will make those guys feel very, very good. Great. And the reality is that's not going to happen. And he knows it. So he had to say that Trump was wrong. He had to say that he had to be at the table, that he had to have an input, that Russia had to give him more of what he wanted. He had no choice but to say those things. If he didn't say those things, if Zelensky said anything but that, he would have been shot by his own people. He would have had a revolt in his own country. The people would lose. They would be so demoralized, they would kill him to put someone else in who will make them feel good and lie to their faces and say that they're going to win when they know they're going to lose. That's just fact. So Zelensky lied to the people, knowing full well that, no, we're going to see Trump. He's going to lead the negotiations, and Russia's going to get a lot of what it wanted, which is exactly what it wanted. They're going to keep a lot of the wheat fields. They're going to keep a lot of the fertilizer. They've got some of the rare earth metals, uranium in particular, and they're going to be able to connect the eastern portion of the Ukraine with the Crimea, allowing Russia to have access to the Black Sea, to the Mediterranean. That's exactly what they've wanted. That's always what they were fighting for. They didn't need to take over the entire country. They just needed enough of the country. They just needed that section of the country. That's all they've ever needed. And everything else has just been bonus. It's just been negotiation tools and chips, bargaining chips. That's all the rest of the fighting has been. Once they've gotten that connection east down to the south into the sea, then that's all Russia wanted. And they've got the farms and they've got fertilizer. They've got rare earth metals. They've got everything they've wanted. And they had that within the first year. Everything else, just bargaining chips. And if they got lucky, they take over the Ukraine. Zelensky knows this. Every leader in the world knows this. Every leader in the world knows this. So Zelensky is now knowing all of this, knowing that that's what they're going to keep what they have taken. And there's nothing he can do about it. And he knows that the United States, we gave them a ton of money. We've given them enough money that the GDP, if Ukraine was ever to try and pay us back in cash, it would take them 3 or 4 years of every single, assuming that they were in perfect health. If the Ukraine were in the same exact financial position as it was in 2019, if their industry was pristine, there were no bombs, they were farming just as much as they always did. If they were in the same economic position as in 2019, it would take them 4 to 5 years of every dollar made by the Ukrainian country to pay back the United States. 4 to 5 years of every dollar in that country would have to go to America to pay us back. So they can't. They can't pay us back. We've all known this. This is not new. So Trump says, I want a deal. I want the rare earth metals. Of course he does. That's why he was making the deal with Greenland. He's looking to the future. He's planning for America's future. He's thinking ahead. Why wouldn't he do that? And they owe us. And they do. Because without our support, they wouldn't even have the small part of the Ukraine that they do have now. They would have lost everything if it weren't for what the United States has done over the last 3 years. That's a fact. They wouldn't be talking about, oh, we're going to negotiate and we're not getting everything we want. They'd have nothing. Russia would have taken it all over already, and they'd be pissed off and they'd be fighting as freedom fighters within the Ukraine, which would be owned by Russia. Let's be honest about it. So to hear Zelensky say that he's going to step down, that was going to happen anyway. The moment that the war is over, Zelensky is out. His claim to fame is getting money from foreign countries to fund the war, to get countries to give humanitarian aid and weapons and ammunition and mostly money. That's been his claim to fame. And a lot of people in the Ukraine have siphoned off their little bit of money and weapons and made themselves super, super rich. Lots of corruption there. And he's the guy who made it possible. He's not the guy to run the country. He's not. And he knows it. So he was always going to step down. No one's going to keep him. Nobody wants him. And they're not going to get NATO membership. Never going to happen. Never will they get NATO membership. Russians keep fighting. They won't let that happen. Now, and as I said earlier, a little bit earlier today, the deal that Zelensky said couldn't happen, will never happen. He's never going to do it. Yeah, the mineral deal is going to go through because they don't have a choice. Because they do, in fact, owe us the money. And this is actually the cheapest way that they could pay us back, is the rare earth minerals that we want. Mind you, that leaves almost nothing for the Ukraine, but at this point, who cares? Quite honestly. This was never about what the Ukraine wanted. It's never been this entire war has nothing to do with the Ukraine. It has to do with America. It has to do with Russia. Maybe to a certain extent it has to do with the EU. It has never had anything to do with Ukraine. Not because the Ukrainian people aren't willing to fight. They are, and they did, and they are brave as hell to do so, especially with the odds all against them. Absolutely. But this was never a war about them. This is a war about the big nations. And that's why, of course, America is going to get the deal. Trump is going to get his minerals. That's a fact. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to get paid back. And I've said this, people who've watched this channel before, you've heard me say, over the last 2-3 years, you've heard me say, and how is America getting paid back? What are we going to get? Because if it isn't for the minerals, they can't pay us off. They can't. Again, it would bankrupt the country. Every single dollar that they could make for 5 years would have to be given to the United States. It would bankrupt every single person. That entire country would be bankrupted to try and pay back the United States. They can't. So this is the best deal they can get, quite honestly. Now, the other thing that's interesting about that, I think, is that there's another component to this. So, Ukraine is preparing to submit to a peace deal. America is going to get paid because America is the one who paid in first. We paid in 80% of everything, so we're getting pretty much everything that we want. And we're going to make sure that Russia lives up to its end of the deal. Russia's going to get almost everything that they want because they won. And the problem is Europe wants to feel better. It is the ego of Europe that is bruised right now. They are very angry right now. In particular, France and the United Kingdom feel like that they should be important. Macron, the president of France, has consistently been saying he wants American troops fighting for him in the Ukraine. He won't send French troops. He's had the opportunity to send French troops anytime he wants to. He won't. But he wants American troops, NATO troops. He wants NATO troops, which are American troops, to go into the Ukraine and fight Russia for France. And France wants to be in charge of running the whole thing. They want to be the general behind the troops, but they don't want those troops to be French troops because they can't. Because the French lose everything. They haven't won since Napoleon. They've lost to everybody. And they know that. But America can win. America can fight. America can win. And, the French can get all the glory and America can spill all the blood. That's what Macron has wanted consistently. because he has an elevated view of himself and of France. America doesn't share that. At the same time, we have Keir Starmer, who is a far leftist in the United Kingdom. He's out of his mind, quite literally. I don't know what's wrong with the Brits. Why did you pick Keir Starmer? I can't understand it. He's a failure at, oh God, he makes AOC look good. That's how bad Keir Starmer is. He makes Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez look like she has good ideas. That's how bad Keir Starmer is. He's super leftist. And his brainchild of an idea is to take that they're going to put Europe. He's going to make an army with Europe. By the way, Europe hates each other. The Europeans have never liked each other. They've been fighting against each other for centuries upon centuries, millennia. They've been fighting against each other. They don't like each other. They don't like to work together. But now, because of the Ukraine, they want to put together England and France, two countries that traditionally absolutely hate each other, two of the worst rivals in history, and they want to put together 30,000 troops that they can then go into, European troops, to go into the Ukraine to fight Russia. And they'll only do it, and they'll fight the good fight. They'll actually be the ones up front of the line fighting. But they'll only do it if America says, okay, we'll back you up. I mean, that's cowardly. And it's stupid. And they know it won't happen. This is how they get the posture. They get to blame Donald Trump. They get to say, Donald Trump is the bad guy, orange man bad. We would fight. We would support the Ukraine. The United States is trying to sell out the Ukraine. But we would go in and fight. You know, the Brits will go there and fight. The French will go there and fight. Mind you, they haven't gone there for 3 years. They are next door. It will take them 4, 5, 6 hours to get there. They are right next door. They can go into the fighting anytime they want to. They've always had the opportunity, and they never took it. They could have always given more money. They didn't. They could have gave more weapons. They didn't. They couldn't give more ammo because they don't have any. Literally, they gave all the ammo they had. In 2023, Europe ran out of ammo. And all the ammo that was going to the Ukraine was coming from the United States because Europe couldn't keep up. They couldn't make ammo fast enough. Ukraine drained all their ammo. So they're saying that they want to go in and fight, and they're the good guys. They're going to protect the Ukraine. They're going to help the Ukraine fight forever. No, they're not. And that isn't the best thing for the Ukrainian people. Fighting until every man, woman, and child is dead isn't a smart thing. That's not a good thing for the Ukrainian people. That's a bad thing. That's prolonging the terror, the torture, the heartache, the bad. No one should want that. But they know it's not going to happen. France knows that they will never have to send one French troop into the Ukraine. England is absolutely confident they'll never be called out and told to put a single one of their troops into the Ukraine. It's not going to happen. They don't need to actually put them. They just need to say that the United States is the fault. See, as long as we go, well, will Trump back us up? And Trump, his actual answer should be, no. It's not my fight. The United States is getting out of this fight. We have already been backing directly the Ukraine. We don't need to back England or France or any other country. We've already been in and dealt with this fight. We're ready to leave. If you want to start a brand new fight, that's your fight. It's got nothing to do with us. Why should we back up England or France when they start a brand new fight with Russia, who Russia is willing to back down? Russia is willing to stop. Why do we have to get into another fight? Why should the United States, the people of the United States, why should we spend another dime, send over another bullet for a war that's not our war, that we get virtually nothing from. This isn't for us. Maybe am I misunderstanding that? Is someone else seeing something different than I am? France wants to put in, France and Keir Starmer, England, they want to put in 30,000 troops, European troops. Okay. And they're only willing to do it if America is willing to say that that American troops will follow them. That at least another 100,000 Americans will go to war in Ukraine to protect the British and the French. You know what that's like? Vietnam. That's like Vietnam. The French were fighting in Vietnam. The French lost their ass. And so the French were running out of Vietnam, and the United States went into Vietnam to help the French and to let the French run away. And then the United States got the bright idea and said, well, we could win this. I mean, it's France. France can't win anything. We know this. Everybody in the world knows France can't win. They get their asses beat by everybody. So, but we're the United States, and it's Vietnam. These guys are running around in huts and in tunnels in the ground. We can beat them. We've got technology. And we didn't. We didn't win that. That's a fact. But that's how we got into that, is the same way that the French and the English are asking us to do right now. Oh, they're going to go in, but we, America, will be the cavalry and we'll come in. Don't you Americans want to be the cavalry, ride in at the sunset and, sunrise and save everybody? No, I do not. No, absolutely not. Because there's no reason for it. They want to start a war. They want to escalate a war. They want this war to be far, far worse. They want more people to die so that England and France can save face, look like they're still important, and so that they can sit at the negotiation table and say, no, we're important too. See, we fought. We're in this. We had some of our troops, they came in, they fought for, a week or two. Then the Americans came in and saved our asses, but now we get to sit at the table because they're not going to match how much money the United States has given to the Ukraine. They're not going to pay off some of the debt of the Ukraine on their behalf. So, what the British could do, what the French could do, what Europe could do is if they're upset with the United States taking so much of a leading position in negotiations, fantastic. Pay us some of the money that we're owed. We spent more money than all the other countries in the world, pretty much combined. All the other countries in the world, no one spent more money than us. Pay us. Pay off the debt for the Ukraine. You can assume the debt that the Ukrainians owe to the United States. Then you'll be able to sit at the table. Isn't that fair? And no one needs to die. You don't need to send in any troops because we aren't going to send in any troops. And they know this, so they don't want to pay off the debt because that would get them a seat at the table. They don't want that. And they absolutely aren't going to send in troops without the United States. And they know Trump isn't going to put troops there because there are no troops the United States wants to have on the ground in the Ukraine. If America wanted to have troops on the ground, Biden would have done it already. If it was at all possible, if there was any will whatsoever to fight in the Ukraine for the Ukrainian people, Biden would have found it and would have done it. There is none. Zero will. So we're not going to back up the British. We're not going to back up the French. As much as the British are our allies, our friends, we have a mutual history with them. We're not going to save them from this. We're not. Because they're choosing to do it on their own when it doesn't have to happen. We are at the end of this war. We are negotiating. The negotiations are already taking place. We are already in the exit phase. And they want to kick up a new fight? That's on you. That has nothing to do with the United States. That's what I think Trump is going to say to them, has said to them, what he will continue to say to them. And they are being very transparent. Macron and Starmer just want to look good. They need to look like they're leaders. They need to look like they're important. They are embarrassed because no one cares what they have to say. They're supposed to be the leaders of Europe. They're supposed to be such big countries, so powerful, and no one cares what they're saying. Russia doesn't care what they have to say. The United States doesn't care what they have to say. Because as much as they want to feel like the big bad dogs in the fight, they're not. That's just the truth. They're not. They didn't put the money up front. They don't have the troops or the weapons or the skill to fight. They don't. So it doesn't matter. Again, if anyone disagrees with me on any of this, let me know. If you think that I'm wrong, I'm happy to hear this. And I know people are going to hear something like there's the YouGov polling, which came out the week of the 17th this month. Okay? And I love this. Where was the question? If the U.S. negotiates a peace deal with Russia without involving Ukraine that leaves Russia in control of some of the conquered territory, and Ukraine does not accept the terms of the deal, what do you think Europe and the UK should do? You know what they don't say? Fight. So, if the Ukraine doesn't like the deal that the U.S. makes, does England, does Europe fight? Let's look at this. Let's see. Encourage them to accept the deal and withdraw military acceptance. No, that's not fighting. Encourage Ukraine to accept the deal and continue to provide them military assistance. That's not fighting. Discourage Ukraine from accepting the deal and continue to provide military assistance. So, in no option, at no point, are the Europeans saying, we'll go and fight instead. You know what, Ukraine, give up. Don't give up. Don't back what the United States says. Just keep fighting, and we'll fight with you. No, they didn't say that. Because they know their people won't do that. And another one. In the event of a peace deal in Ukraine, would you support or oppose British soldiers being stationed in the country as peacekeepers alongside soldiers from other European countries? So here's the key words. In the event of a peace deal. So would you send troops to the Ukraine after the peace has been done? After the United States has done its job? After the Ukrainian people have made all of their sacrifices? After the fighting is over? Will you send in British troops to stand around and watch people rebuild their lives out of the poverty, out of the rubble of the war? That's not the same thing as sending in 30,000 troops and trying to fight. That's not the same thing as being a leader. Do you want Britain to go in after the fact? Well, who cares at that point? It doesn't really bloody well matter, does it? Does it really matter if it's American troops or French troops or any other troops in the world? You could have Nairobi. You could have troops from anywhere, from Nairobi, from Egypt. They could come up. I don't care. Have someone from South Africa. Doesn't matter. Send people from, Thailand or Laos. Doesn't matter. Australia could send in some police officers. Doesn't matter. The fighting's over. It doesn't matter who you send. Fighting's done. And they're like, oh yeah, well, somewhat. They have about 58% strongly or somewhat or strongly support in polling the idea that the British should stand there and watch people rebuild their lives. Pick up and sort through the rubble. Doesn't really matter. But they want you to believe that the Brits are so powerful, that they're so in charge, that they're doing such a great job. They're not. And the fact is, as we can see here, and this is just, I went here instead of to the articles themselves, but very obviously, Europeans have been relying on the United States, and this is yet another example of that. They want to have 30,000 troops with the United States putting all of our weight and power behind it. Why? Because they want to use us. Because they've been using us. They don't have their own militaries, their own defense. The biggest argument that they've been having is that they can't afford it because they spend their money on everything else. They have gotten so used over the decades that the United States has assumed the majority of the cost of NATO and everything else that has to do with the military for Europe and for England. We have been covering their asses so much that they don't even budget for it. They don't know what to do. They don't have the infrastructure anymore. America handles that. America deals with it. Oh, they have to deal with it? They don't know what to do. They actually have to maybe, cut some of their funding. Maybe they might not be able to have UBI, Universal Basic Income, in France. Maybe the French people can't protest every other week. Maybe they would actually have to build something. Maybe they would have to be productive. Maybe they would have to actually protect their borders and actually pay attention, be responsible for their own people, because the United States isn't there to do it for them. I mean, that's just maybe. Let's see here. User has been banned. Hello, user. And he says, didn't Long Island have a movement for breaking from the state years ago? I'm not sure if there was. By the way, user has been banned. Thank you for joining us. User has been banned says, I don't think the French even exist anymore. Well, no, they do. Their French military is kind of the French Foreign Legion, which isn't the French military. They're serious. The French Foreign Legion, they're mercenaries and they're good. They are effective. They are respected worldwide. No doubt, no joke. I have no problem with the French Foreign Legion. They are serious military, and they should be respected. Absolutely. French military, the French government military, they're a joke. They lose to everyone. Everyone, every time, all over the place. They're useless. And they've never improved. I mean, ever since Vietnam, they have relied on the United States to cover France's ass everywhere they go. In everything that they do, because they're useless. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And Keir Starmer thinks that he's the brilliant guy and he's going to force America's actions, that he can either blame Orange Man bad for not being willing to start a new war, or that the United States. So the United States is basically going to fight the war for them because he thinks Trump is not smart enough to realize that what they're trying to do is start a new war. No, I think anyone and everyone can understand that. That's pretty obvious. This isn't like high-level 4D chess that Starmer's trying to play here. And realistically, what do they want? It's about their ego. They want to look like they are important in the world. And they're not. The French don't have a military worth talking about. The military of the UK realistically don't have a military worth talking about. Mind you, the UK has more of a military than the French, absolutely. And if I had to choose in Europe, if I had to choose a military that I wanted to, support, someone I wanted to back me up, what military would I want as my number one military to back me up in the world? The Polish. I take the Polish first. Then I'd take the British. Then the Germans. Never the French. So in that order, the Polish, the British, then the Germans. I think that would be the best. Sweden, they're great, but they're Sweden, like Norway, they're only good for cold weather fighting. If you're anywhere but in mountains, except where there's massive amounts of snow and cold, you fight anywhere else, they're not very effective troops. So, not that they're bad troops, they're just not effective anywhere else. They're good defending themselves. They're not a good offensive military. They're a good defensive military. And that's just a reality about them. So, no, they're not good enough. So, yeah, that leaves me with the Germans, who have always been good military. They've always had a good military. The Polish have always had a good military. And the British, who generally always had a good military. Those are the ones. Let's see. User has been banned says, hey, at least France sells the best used weapons. Well, kind of, yeah. Oh, they're great. User has been banned says, oh, they're great at defense in Nordic nations. The sniper named White Death stands out. Oh, yeah. No. Again, the Nordics, we're talking about Sweden and Norway. I'm not saying they are bad in their element. They are phenomenal. No doubt. Outside of their element, not so great. You put them in, you take them from their climate and bring them into, say, Sardinia. You bring them into Tunisia. You bring them into, pretty much anywhere in the Middle East. They're not very effective. It's just a reality. Not that their troops are well trained for the environment they tend to fight in. They're not good in any other. They're good for cold weather with extreme elevation. They're fantastic. Everywhere else, not so much. All right, let's move on. Oh, God. You guys have no idea how I'm feeling terrible. The fever's broken. Broke the fever. I'm just not feeling great. I'm trying to just burn right through it today. I'm rushing a little bit. For those who are new to the channel, if it seems a little bit disjointed, it is a little bit disjointed from what I normally would try to do in the interaction, and I apologize for that. It's just, like I said, I've spent 2.5 days bedridden. But I wasn't going to not do the show today. Thankfully, this morning, the fever broke. And that's good. So I'm trying to do the show. I haven't eaten yet today. I got to eat. But I'm just I'm not feeling great. So I'm trying, folks. I'm trying to keep up. Anyway, I think it's really important when we look at what's going on with Hamas. As we're talking about all these things that are happening around the world, Hamas knows they are in trouble. One of the most important things for Hamas and for Iran, honestly, it's Iran. Iran controls Hamas, the Houthis, and Hezbollah. They control those puppet terrorist organizations. That's a fact. And while the United States has been massively distracted under the Biden-Harris administration, while we've been massively distracted by the Ukraine, that allowed the terrorists to take actions without any real retribution. Biden couldn't multitask. I mean, we knew for a fact, and we now know for a fact, that Joe Biden was very rarely in full control of his faculties on any given day, especially as we got towards the end of his presidency. So he wasn't able to keep up with, and it seems that most of the staff he had weren't paying attention to all of the different things happening in the world. They just weren't good enough because they didn't need to be. They were Democrats. They were progressive. They thought open borders would answer everything. They're idiots. They thought that, the only thing you need to do is give Iran a big hug and they'll stop trying to kill you. No, they won't. That's just stupid. But, they have those stupid ideas. And they think that, Hamas are the good guys. They're stupid, but that's another thing. But anyway, so Hamas took advantage and Iran took advantage of the distraction of the Biden-Harris administration to attack Israel and the United States and the United Kingdom. because Joe Biden was trying to win elections, because Democrats were trying to win elections, the news media downplayed massively the death of 34 American citizens at the hands of Hamas, the capture of 22 American citizens by Hamas, who then were tortured and sexually abused by the Hamas terrorists. These are facts. It's not a question. It's not an if. It's not a maybe. These are absolute facts. They have been confirmed by the UN. Yes, these things happened. We know that. And the news media downplayed it. They stopped mentioning the different countries that the hostages came from. They called anyone, they assumed that every hostage was Israeli first and foremost, and maybe, if at all, they might mention, well, they're an American, but they're Israeli. Well, if you're Jewish, according to the way most of the news media look at it, if you're Jewish, that means you're Israeli, so that means you're an Israeli person. No, it means you're a Jewish person. You can still be an American. You still are an American. Your religion isn't something that defines, doesn't exclude your nationality. So I think that's important to keep in mind. Now, Hamas, I want people to think about this. Hamas knows they have to wind this down. The distractions in the world are getting less and less. Because we know that with the war, with the Ukraine-Russia war winding down, that's a lot of resources, that's a lot of attention that can be put back into the Middle East, that can be put back to the terrorism of the Houthis, the Hezbollah, the Hamas, that we can pay attention to them. With China backing down, they're not still trying to say that they're going to overtake Taiwan tomorrow by force. They stopped saying that. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't do it at some time in the future. Absolutely they will. But they stopped talking about that. We've seen that, at least the last that I've seen in the news, the tensions between China and the Philippines over territorial rights in the oceans in the South China Sea, China's backed off. Since President Trump has taken office, something that was plaguing and was building up, the international tensions were building in the last year under the Biden administration. And it looked more and more like that there was going to be, even by accident, that there was going to be a war between the Philippines and China. In fact, the Philippines was asking the United States to reopen a base so that they could be protected from China because the tensions were getting that high. And now, tensions are down. China backed off. Because Trump administration isn't the Biden-Harris administration. And that means all the things that were distracting the United States from paying attention to the terrorist acts of Hamas and the, somewhat hidden war against the Houthis in the Red Sea, we can now pay attention to. We can really focus on that. We can really use our leverage of our military, of our political might on them as a pinpoint. Now, Trump's already made the offer. We can rebuild all of Gaza, rebuild the whole thing, turn it into a Riviera. And Hamas said no. And at the same time, we're finding out that Hamas, they don't want to improve the land for their people, because that's what Trump offered. We will give them water and infrastructure, electricity, housing, schools, hospitals. We'll build it all. The United States will build it all. And the people of the Palestinian people can have it all. Brand new homes, modern technology, electricity, everything, all the modern first world appliances, everything that they want. The quality of life would be exponentially higher than what it is right now. And Hamas said, no, 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 no. We want our people to live in squalor. That's what they actually said. They said, no, no, we want the people to be in squalor. Because if they live in squalor, then they'll become members of Hamas. They'll be suicide bombers. They won't be suicide bombers if they don't live in squalor. If they live with a higher quality of life, they'll choose to be a school teacher. They may be a bus driver. They may do things, productive things with their life. They won't go and try and kill themselves by blowing up a bus full of children. So, no, Hamas wants the Palestinian people to live in squalor. Egypt, Jordan, all the other countries around don't care. They could care less because they just don't want the Palestinian people. Whatever keeps the Palestinian people out of their countries, they're okay with. It doesn't matter what it is. If the Palestinian people go and jump into the sea or do anything else, they could care less. As long as the Palestinian people aren't coming into their countries as refugees, they don't care. They don't want to keep them. Although, if the United States is willing to pay for them to take some refugees temporarily, they'll do that too, like in Jordan. But hey, they don't care because they don't care about the Palestinian people. No one does. Why doesn't anyone care about the Palestinian people? Because the Palestinian people killed children. Again, Hamas kills children. This is what Harvard wants you to feel bad about. This is what Columbia University, Cornell University, the colleges across America want you to sympathize with Hamas. Hamas killed babies and their mother. And then they lied about it. Do I have it here in this article? No. Now, this is from the Voice of America. And I thought I had it. So, what we know for a fact is Hamas on October 23rd, October 7th, 2023, killed 1,200 people, including Americans. Took 256 people hostage from around 50 different countries. 256 people. Of those, 22 are Americans. By the way, one American has been released so far. There's at least 2 known Americans that are still alive. There are at least 15 Americans. We have no idea. We presume they're all dead. But no one is talking about them. No one has been talking about them. We've been covering this every week since October 8th. We have been covering this every single week, saying, where are those Americans? 1 American has been released. 1. Where are the other 15 Americans? Hamas won't tell you. No one's telling you where they are. Are they alive? Are they dead? We don't know. Where are they? There's supposed to be at least 2 more Americans that are still alive. Where are they? Why haven't they been released yet? What's going on? But Hamas, they killed children. They killed children. They literally, they took these children, as we understand, they grabbed these children on October 7th, 2023. They took their mom, Miss Shiri Bibas. They captured them. They tortured them. And now they want us to believe, well, no, but it was the Israelis that killed them. Then why didn't you tell us? Every time the Israelis did anything, the one time, to be exact, the one time that the Israelis did anything that harmed hostages, Hamas turned around to the world and told everyone, showed them all the evidence and proved that Israel harmed the hostages, and the world condemned Israel. And suddenly, Hamas got a bunch of humanitarian aid out of it. If they could have, if any hostage was the result of Israel killing those hostages, they would have provided that information to the world instantly because they know they would have gained support, they would have gotten humanitarian aid, they would have been able to negotiate. They knew that because that's what happened the one time they did have that evidence when it was the truth. They did negotiate and they did leverage that politically. So if these children have been killed by anyone except Hamas, Hamas would have told us instantly so that they could get, they would have had all of the grief and the anguish of the world, the pity for those children. They would have been able to capitalize and gotten incredible amounts of humanitarian aid and put intense pressure on Israel. And they said nothing because they lie. They are lying. Hamas killed children. This is who Harvard wants you to support. This is who Columbia College wants you to support. Columbia University, the colleges in America, want you to support a terrorist organization that kills children. Barely. Kills children, kills moms, and lies about it. Tortures. By the way, not just killed them, tortures them. They tortured the children. They tortured the mom. They probably sexually abused them as well. I can't prove that, can't guarantee that. But I have no reason not to believe that that is the truth, since they have done it to other prisoners. They have sexually abused virtually all of the prisoners, as I understand at this time. The best evidence that we have, Hamas sexually abused all of the prisoners, especially all the women. Yeah, I have no reason to believe that they didn't do that to the children and the mom in this case. Why did they put this news out? Hey, Joel, why did Hamas, in the middle of the week, send out these bodies and they knew that yesterday, on Saturday, they knew that they were going to be trading off the last of the 6 living hostages. None of them American, by the way. 6 living hostages. None of them Americans. They were going to trade them off, and they could have, at the same time, traded the dead babies. Why didn't they do it at the same time? Because they wanted everyone to forget. This story about these dead babies is supposed to disappear. You're not supposed to remember this. You're supposed to forget about this. You're supposed to think about the 6 hostages that got released. None of them Americans, by the way. None of them British. Oh, see, we got all the hostages back. No, we didn't. None of them are American. They still have Americans. They have Americans that are alive. They have Americans that are dead. Hamas still has the Americans. But separate of that, you're not supposed to think about it. You're supposed to forget that Hamas tortured and sexually abused children, that they killed the mom and the children, not Israel. If they had any evidence of that, they would have already told us. They would have already shown us. They'd have used this politically to their advantage, as they did the one time they actually had such proof, that it actually was the truth. They know that. But they think you're dumb. They think you're gullible. They think that you will believe the colleges that say, oh, no, don't worry about it. Just because they sexually abused those children, don't worry about it. It's because they're oppressed. And if Hamas is oppressed, well, they can kill children. They can torture children. They can sexually abuse children, and it's okay. Because, they're oppressed. Because Hamas is smaller than Israel, even though Hamas are terrorists. And even though they're acting with terrorism. It's insane. It's insane, folks. They even tried to hide. And I don't even understand why Hamas was doing this, that they switched bodies. They're parading the bodies all around. They're making this into some kind of showcase. They're trying to be big and bold and like, hey, look at this. We killed all these foreign nationals. I don't understand it. It's evil. It's evil. Here it is. This is from, I wanted to cover this. Hang on, folks. Here it is. Hamas, six hostages were freed yesterday. As there's now a delay. 6 hostages. And I wanted to cover, by the way, links to everything in the show today will be in the description afterwards so that you can see it for yourself. So late Saturday, Hamas published a propaganda video on social media that appeared designed to instill fear for the safety of the hostages still alive. That's terrorism. This is who Harvard, this is who Columbia, this is what the college professors want you to support. This is what the Democratic Socialists of America, this is what they want you to support. This is what the left of Europe want you to support. The video shows that the militant terrorist, I love it. This is the New York Times. They don't like to use the word terrorist. Hamas is a recognized terrorist organization. So the video shows that the terrorist brought 2 additional captives to a transfer ceremony on Saturday where they were forced to watch a van and beg for their own release. Imagine the horror. Imagine the evil. And I wanted to point this out because the New York Times, they stuck this particular part of the story in the middle. You're not supposed to read this far. You're not supposed to notice this. This is an article that came out, where is it? So this is the article, Hamas frees 6 hostages as Israel delays Palestinian prisoner release. And this came out on the updated this morning, actually, the 23rd at 1:20 a.m. And look at this. This is, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 17 paragraphs in, 4 ads, big page ads are all blocking this. You're not supposed to notice this story. They don't want you to keep reading. They figured you'd be too tired reading. You'll go on to the next story. You only follow news for 1 minute or less. You're not going to read about what happened on Saturday. This should be headline news. This should be its own article. This is important. If you weren't paying attention before, pay attention now. Share this part with everyone. They were torturing, they are still torturing the hostages. Imagine, Hamas has been torturing you. They capture you. They put you into a van. They show you that your neighbor, that your friend, that your fellow hostage is being released to their family, to their friends. They are being given their freedom, and they are showing you that, and you are feet away from getting free. And then they drive you off and put you back into a cell. You could go home. They could just open up the van doors and you could run and go home. They could have let you free. No. They want to break you. They want to destroy you. They want to be evil. This is evil. Look, see, they got to go home. They got to be free. You're going to die. You can't go anywhere. You get to watch other people go home after 400, almost 500 days in captivity. After almost 500 days of sexual abuse, of torture. You know what? You're going to stay here and we're going to torture you even more. You can see the way to freedom, but you can't go. And they videotaped this so that the families of those hostages could see that their family members were being tortured before their eyes, that they were being teased with the idea that they could maybe go home, that their loved ones hadn't forgotten about them, that there was a way out. And Hamas won't let them have it. that their freedom is being denied to them. That's evil. That is evil. Now, going on with the New York Times. This is from the New York Times saying this. Don't believe me. Oh my God, Mike, you're just a right-wing Republican. You hate Hamas. Yes, I do. You just don't understand. Okay, I'm quoting the New York Times. The New York Times is telling you, they're trying to hide it from you, but they are telling you that this is the kind of evil that Hamas is doing, that the torture is going on right this second. And again, I have to say, where are the Americans? If this is the torture that is happening right now, that it is happening as prisoners are being released, they are using that to torture other prisoners, where are the Americans? There's at least two. We only can know of, and we only believe there's 2 Americans that are still alive. There's 15 that are dead. Where are those living Americans? Are they the ones that they are torturing? Is this who they are doing this to? That they're showing them the freedom, the opportunity to go home, and they're torturing them instead? Are they torturing children? Oh, no one's asked that question, did they? Are they torturing women and children this way? Destroying them. Destroying their mental well-being forever. Rights groups, according to the New York Times, they go on to say, rights groups and international law experts say that a hostage video is, by definition, made under duress. So this is a crime. And that the statements in it are usually coerced. I would think that's a full and clear description of what Hamas is doing. Israeli officials have called past Hamas videos a form of psychological warfare. I would call it torture, but yes. And experts say that their production can constitute a war crime. Hamas is committing a war crime. This is who the Democratic Socialists of America wanted you. They were protesting in the streets of New York. They were blocking off traffic across this country, saying that you need to support Hamas because Hamas is committing war crimes, torturing men and women and children by showing them the way to get home, the freedom that was just outside their grasp. That they killed babies. That they tortured and possibly sexually abused babies. And this is who the Democratic Socialists of America, this is who they support. Ilhan Omar and AOC and what's her name? I know you guys know the names of all of them. I can't think of them all at this moment. Damn fever. But this is who they wanted you to support. This is who Harvard and the colleges, this is what the college professors say. No, you should be supporting this. You should support this torture, this abuse, this war crime. They have told you you're supposed to support war crimes. Remember the sit-ins, the students at Columbia University, at all the colleges, how they were putting up tents saying, no, we have to support Hamas. We have to give Hamas more aid. We have to help them out as they torture and commit war crimes. I don't know. If that doesn't mean rethink your life goals, I don't know what does. Let me move on. Trump tells CPAC his goal is a lasting Republican majority. You're going to hear a lot of people who are going to twist this around. Oh my God, look at this. Trump says he wants a lasting. It means he's going to create a dictatorship. This is the empire of Trump. Democrats want a lasting Democrat majority. And they've said it. And their way to get a lasting Democrat majority was they would open up the border and they would create a path to citizenship after the nation got flooded by illegal aliens. You know why I know that? I'm saying that. Why? Because that's what Kamala Harris said. She said it to ABC News in Philadelphia. I have the video. You've probably seen the video. We saw this during the election. She told us this is what the whole point of the open borders is. Democrats want open borders so that illegal aliens can get a path to citizenship. and then they'll vote Democrat. So that is the lasting Democrat majority. But no, that's okay. Don't worry about how they're going to manipulate and flood the system with foreigners to be able to maintain power for Democrats. But Republicans working within the system, working with the people in the nation, working through the structure, the infrastructure that already exists, to work with that. Oh, that's a bad thing. Orange man bad. Oh my God. How dare Republicans actually make the best case possible? How dare Republicans and conservatives actually show America that they can be more effective and efficient, and maybe they should get elected because they are more effective and efficient. Oh, how evil those Republicans are. That's how they're going to create this empire. Same thing that Democrats want. No one ever talks about it that way, do they? No, they don't. By the way, let me take a quick step. Joel, thank you. I'm going to try and feel better. Yeah, this is cold flu season. It appears to be. A lot of people are getting that lately. We'll all just tough it through. I appreciate that you are here with me. All right. And we're doing a short show today. If you notice, I'm trying to rush through. For me, this is rushing through. Vaccine victims left disabled. See, I can't really say anything about this one because Google and YouTube, they already suppressed the hell out of this channel. They don't like, we talk about so many issues like, calling Hamas terrorists because they're terrorists. When I point out that the Hamas terrorists, like the Houthi terrorists, like the Hezbollah terrorists, that they torture their victims, and those victims can be children, YouTube, Google, they don't like that honesty. They don't like to use those words. You can't say that because it makes them feel uncomfortable, because you might not vote Democrat if someone told you the truth. So they want you to make it sound nice, to try and cover it up and hide it from the public, because, then you still might vote Democrat. They have a political agenda that they are trying to promote. I'm just trying to tell you what I think. I'm trying to show you the evidence, the things that they bury 17 paragraphs into a story, because you're not supposed to pay attention, because you're not supposed to be informed. They won't make it its own story. They won't tell you that in its own article with its own headline. No. They don't want to do that. So here we are. Because of that suppression that happens, and this is why we need you to like and share and most of all subscribe. And the fact that I'm willing to come on, sick as I am, to do the show anyway. Give me a like and a share and subscribe just for that. But we find out that there is a report from Yale University that it seems to say, and it seems to indicate that, the jab has harmed people extremely. That there have been reactions to the jab that have paralyzed individuals. Now, I can't really speak about this subject because I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm quoting what the Daily Mail is talking about. I'm talking about what Yale University has said. The evidence, the science has been saying about this issue. And if I don't mention these things, if I just show you the evidence, then, then I will get my channel shut down, because Google doesn't like the truth. Google doesn't want you to be informed with the facts. Oh my God, you're right wing. You don't. What, you mean to tell me the Daily Mail isn't a qualified, credible source? You mean Yale University isn't a qualified source? Yeah, I'm telling you this so that you, next time you're going to go in and get a shot, you may want to think about it. You may want to have a conversation with your doctor. Remember that it is normal for any drug to get FDA approval. They normally have to go through a 10-year process. When it is fast-tracked, it is a 7-year process, of which human trials are the very last stage before a drug is allowed to be used by human beings. The jabs they haven't even been around, at the time that they were forcing and mandating it, people weren't, those medications hadn't been around for a year. We have no idea what the long-term consequences of it are. And as we can find out from Yale, it is, in some cases, we know that there are side effects. So Joe Biden lied to you about that. There are side effects to some people. And we do know that some of those side effects are extreme. And we do know that, as Yale is telling us, that this can cause extreme changes to people's bodies. It can't happen. You need to have a conversation with your doctor. Don't just blindly believe. So let me also go on. Kash Patel. So everyone got approved. I did not think that Tulsi Gabbard would get approved. I said on this channel that I believed earlier this year, I said that I thought RFK Jr. would get approval and that he would get 51 votes. He got 52. I said that I did not think that that it would be very close with Tulsi Gabbard, but she would get 49 votes for, and she would have like 51 votes against. But I was wrong, and she got approved. And here's Kash Patel, and I thought it was 51 votes for him. I thought I had that here. I don't care. But he also has been approved. So that's the FBI, that's National Intelligence, that's the Health and Human Services are all approved. Basically, those were all the tricky, questionable nominees for the Trump administration. Now that they've all been put through, it's just rock and roll time here. We're going to see a lot of changes in this government going forward. Let's talk. Okay, we're almost done with the show. Almost done with the show because I'm sick as a dog. So let me just go into, according to CBS News, the National Guard deployment to prisons criticized by Senate Republican leader. So that was this week on Tuesday. For those who are unaware, in New York State, there is currently a strike by correctional officers of the prison system. Basically, law enforcement that works in prisons, they have gone on strike because of terrible work conditions, because of the failures of the Kathy Hochul administration, because Kathy Hochul doesn't care about prisons, she doesn't care about prisoners, and she even less cares about the police officers, the corrections officers, since they are the lowest on the totem of concern for her. They went on strike. Kathy Hochul, her answer to this is the same answer that she had for the subway system. When New York City police said, well, we can't cover the subway because we don't have enough officers, because Kathy Hochul fired the officers, and she fired firemen, she fired the doctors and nurses, she fired the corrections officers because they didn't get the jab. They didn't accept the mandate. Because a lot of people were afraid that if they accepted the mandate, well, there might be some extreme body changes, which, hey, what a shock. They were right. But because people had a concern about an experimental drug being injected into their bodies, because Kathy Hochul, a non-doctor, said you must, they got fired instead. And now, because these people have been overworked and they do not have enough support, and there is no infrastructure coming, because Kathy Hochul, just like Eric Adams, have been spending all of their money on illegal aliens because they believe in open borders, instead of actually building the infrastructure of the state. Well, now we have the problem we have right now. That the corrections officers are on strike. Kathy Hochul says, well, I'll just use National Guard. National Guard solves everything. Everything is Orange Man bad spot. Everything belongs. Trump is the root of the problem of everything, and the National Guard are the solution to everything in New York State, according to Kathy Hochul. Everything you can point to Donald Trump, and he's the problem. He's the reason for every problem in the universe, according to Kathy Hochul. And the answer, the solution to everything, is, of course, National Guard, which is stupid. The National Guard are not qualified. They're not capable. And let me be clear, they're not qualified to be corrections officers. They're not qualified to be police officers. They're not the Swiss Army knife. That's not what the National Guard is. That's not what they're trained for. That's not what our military does. That's just not how it works. So it's very aggravating. Very, very aggravating, folks. And she's here and she's saying, well, don't worry, National Guard. We just throw in some National Guard. Doesn't matter. We've got National Guard. We'll just put them in. By the way, that doesn't fix this. How long are you going to have National Guard? That's not even a short-term fix. Even if you want to use the National Guard, who are not qualified to do these different jobs, but let's say you have to plug the hole. Okay, plug the hole. Well, just get them in there because we need someone in there right now. Okay, well, that's kind of dangerous when we're talking about prisons. We're talking about people's medications, their routines in the prison system. Yeah, well, this is a problem, but assuming, okay, she puts them in there. What's the long-term answer? She has none. Kathy Hochul has no problem. And this is the problem that we see with J.B. Pritzker, what we see with Gavin Newsom, with Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. None of the Democratic governors, they have no plan. They have no answer for the solution. They don't have a fix to this. She's like, well, I'll put the National Guard in there. How long? And you still have a root problem that you fired people unconstitutionally. You unconstitutionally fired people for not taking an experimental drug that could harm them. And you tried to force that down their throats and they said no. And you said you're fired. That's unconstitutional. And because she created the problem and she doesn't want to fix the problem now it's a burden for everyone else. It amazes me. It amazes me. So Rob Ort, a state senator, was one of the first to criticize and say, this is not a solution. It is not a short-term solution. It is not a long-term solution. This doesn't, just saying National Guard, that fixes everything. That isn't the answer. It's not the Swiss Army knife to everything. This isn't going to plug up the holes in the dam. We need a plan. We need a serious professional in charge who is effective and efficient and can actually deal with the issues this state has. And we could say the same thing about J.B. Pritzker, about Gretchen Whitmer, about Gavin Newsom, about Josh Shapiro. They aren't serious. They want to look good to get the money. They want the donation. They want the vote. But they have no plan for the infrastructure. They have no plan to take care of the people, which is why they fail. And this is what we get from the left. We're almost done. We're almost done, folks. There is an MSNBC host. This is the left for you. This is how these people think about you. Doesn't matter. I love you. I love my audience. Even the people who disagree with me. Everywhere around the world. Love my audience. Even when you disagree with me, as long as you disagree with me, well, as long as you disagree in a polite manner, hey, fine, go for it. We don't have to have the same idea. Don't attack me personally and say what you have to say. Not a problem. But that isn't what we see from these people. What we are seeing excuse me 1 second here, is that they are going out and they are attacking you. The left cannot help but attack you. You have to obey. You have to believe whatever they say every time they say it. And if you don't, you are the problem. This guy, former MSNBC, this is a left-wing talking head, goes out and he says he wants to make Americans' planes crash again. That is what he wanted to see. He thinks that it was funny. He thinks it was funny to say that there should be more plane crashes. He thought it was a joke to ask for more plane crashes. This is the same guy who got fired by MSNBC because he was too much of a racist, because of his support for Hamas, the terrorists who kill children. That's this guy. But this is what represents the left. That this guy is running out there. Look, you can make a joke. He's not a comedian. This is a political pundit. And this political pundit is like, hey, we need more plane crashes in America. This is the same guy who says, he wants to see Hamas do better and, he wants to see Israel burned. I tell you, this is evil. The people on the left are evil. Over and over again. They come down to it. They are evil people. Over and over again. Okay, final thing. And then I am out of here. Out for today. Remember when you saw this, and a lot of people were like, oh, well, no, that's not exactly right. Well, if you don't know, this is a list from the United States Social Security Office. This is the number of people in America by age group every 10 years that are considered alive according to the Social Security Department. Okay? And John Fetterman was upset about this. Like, oh my God, why are you going into this data? Because no one else was telling the American people as openly, as publicly, that according to the Social Security Department, there are 1 million people, or 1,000 people, who are 229 years old in America. According to the Social Security Department, there are Americans who are 229 years old right now. According to the Social Security, the United States government says that there are 1.3 million people who are 159 years old right now in America. 159 years old. There is at least one person who's 369 years old. That's older than America itself, according to the United States government right now. There's 3.9 million Americans who are 130 years old. 3.5 million Americans who are 140 years old. This is ridiculous. Now, I know a lot of people will say, but Mike, we're not sending them checks. We know that they're not alive. And there's a system built in. Yeah, that system was built on in 2023. I want you to think about that. Up until 2023, we were giving them checks. We were giving them money. And we kept them on the books. But here's the thing. In 2023, in July of 2023, the Census Bureau knew for a fact that they had dead people that were on the rolls. That there were 18 million people who were dead that were being counted as alive by the government. Now, you say, but that doesn't matter, Mike, but we're not sending them a check. Are you sure? Are you sure that maybe they didn't get a Social Security check, Did they get any other form of government aid? Were they registering to vote? Are you sure that they weren't? According to, and again, this is coming from the Office of Audit Report Summary. This is from July 2023. It has nothing to do with Elon Musk. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with Doge. This is under the Biden-Harris administration. Oh, yes, under the Biden-Harris administration, the government, the Social Security Administration, was absolutely aware. They knew since 2015 that there were 18.9 million people who were on the rolls that were dead. Without a question, unless you know how there's a 300-year-old man walking around right now, they are dead. We know this for a fact. And that they should not be on the rolls at this time. And yet they were. That these people were possibly being registered, and some of them were earning money. Oh. Some of these people, about 140,000 of these people who are dead, were getting a paycheck. They were earning money, which means someone is corrupting the system. Someone is cheating the system. And we knew this under the Biden administration. They knew this since 2015 under the Obama administration, and they didn't fix it then. Oh, no one wants to have that conversation. That this has been an ongoing, consistent problem. It's been around since, at least, according to the documents here, at least under the Obama administration, and was never fixed. Under the Biden administration, it was never fixed. And now that we have the Trump administration, Doge, they have found it. They are actually doing something about it. And they're making the American people aware. Because no one was talking about this article. I cover news all the time. No one was having this conversation in 2015. I know it for a fact. We can go back and look at the videos of that year. That was not one of the issues at the time. No one was talking about it. No one knew about it. The news media absolutely glossed past this. No one knew this report existed because we would have asked the Obama administration to fix this. There's no reason why those people cannot be purged. There's no reason why anyone who's 150 years old and older, there's no reason why they cannot be purged instantly right now from the Social Security rolls, from the government database. They're dead. Wipe them out, take them off. The only reason why they're still in the system is someone is abusing the system. And from what we can tell, as of July 2023, 140,000 people were abusing the system. This is why, and for the people who are wondering, why are we, the government, why is it still counting millions of people who are obviously dead for the last century and a half or more, so that 140,000 people could use their Social Security numbers and abuse the system? This is what Democrats have been doing, and they don't care. They don't think you're supposed to notice. No one was supposed to remember that. I will keep the link for this in the description so that you can look it up for yourself, so that you can look this over and you can see the data. This is from the United States federal government itself. Again, it's not a right thing. Has nothing to do with me being a Republican. Has nothing to do with conservatism. It's not being on the right. This is from the Biden-Harris administration itself, talking about the Obama administration. All right. So with all that said, I am going to go hack up my guts because I feel like crap. I'm going to go lay down. I'm going to get some orange juice, drink that, go back to sleep. Well, I'm going to walk my dog, get some orange juice, drink that, go to sleep because I'm wiped out. Tomorrow, I will be doing an interview at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. I'll be doing an interview with a New York candidate. So I want you to come back and check that out. But until that time, I want you to be well,